Max Verstappen executes a perfect strategy, wins the Qatar Grand Prix, and now is just 12 points back in second place in this Drivers' Championship standings as Lando Norris. He had a tough one out there today. Let's talk about it. 3 takeaways from this one, and let's start with McLaren's decision-making. So, if you didn't get to see the race, or if you did, McLaren didn't pit their drivers, Oscar Piastri, who was leading, and Lando Norris in P3 on lap 7 when the safety car came out on this one, where every other team pitted. And so for McLaren's decision-making, I heard from McLaren team principal Andrea Stella following this one, and he felt that if they had have pitted, they were worried that they would have came out in traffic and lost all of their advantage with the track position that they had. I think also when you take a look at this thing at the same time is the McLaren racing rules, or the papaya rules. So essentially McLaren not wanting to get in the way of this Drivers' Championship battle between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, and have it be as fair a fight as possible. And so leaving them both out there on the same strategy was a mistake. And like I had said, right now this is a team that, desperately does not want to be the reason for neither of their drivers winning this Drivers' Championship battle. But by just sitting on the fence with all of this, it might result in neither of their drivers winning the title as well. Because Max Verstappen is coming. And I think for the drivers who have been leading this championship, they've been struggling with mistakes. If you looked at Lando Norris, started off leading this Drivers' Championship. He dropped down to P2. Oscar Piastri took advantage of some mistakes and some struggling. And Piastri started leading this Drivers' Championship. Then he started struggling, making mistakes, losing a bit of confidence, drops down to P2. Lando jumps up into P1. And now you've kind of got a bit of both going on here, because this race weekend, I think Lando Norris could have closed this championship out. Okay? All he needed to do at the time was score a few more points than Max Verstappen. That would have pushed him out. Scored a few more points than Oscar Piastri, and that would have pushed him out, and Lando probably would have won the championship here this weekend. However, making the mistakes he made in Saturday qualifying and abandoning his final push lap when he was on provisional pole, that obviously bumped him down to P2 because Piastri set a better time than the provisional pole time. But if Lando had have not made the mistake, what could have been? And starting P2 on the dirty side of the track, where nobody really wanted to start this weekend, and his two main competitors, in Oscar Piastri starting P1 and Max Verstappen starting P3, and we saw what happened off the start with Verstappen taking advantage of the clean side of the track and going around Lando and then taking over P2 at the start of this one. And then I think there's the race as well, where we did see Norris make a few mistakes, especially the big one. He made a big one where he went off and had a really heavy off as well. And we don't really know whether or not that if there was damage to the underside of Lando's car or not. That would have meant that he would have lost a bit of performance with the car as well. Maybe find out a little bit more on that when I head to Abu Dhabi next week. However, if Kimi Antonelli doesn't make his mistake and go off, then Lando Norris heads to Abu Dhabi in a more compromised position, because with Antonelli going off, Lando inherits a few extra points to give himself just a tiny bit more of a buffer heading to Abu Dhabi. And so I think, when you take a look at all of this, when I described those who have been the hunters and those who have been the hunted in this Drivers' Championship battle, and you know who's really good at being the hunted and also the hunter, well, that's Max Verstappen. He's now P2 in this Drivers' Championship battle, just 12 points back as we head to Abu Dhabi for what is going to be a tremendous final race on all of this thing. It's going to be fantastic. And I think when we talk about Max Verstappen, that's got to be my third takeaway. This 4-time world champion who is obsessed with winning and perfection and always doing his best. He is the greatest driver of this new generation of drivers that we are seeing. He's the boogeyman. It really is. I think as we head to Abu Dhabi, this is going to be a very, very hard-fought race weekend. It's not a sprint weekend, so the teams will get a proper free practice 1, free practice 2, free practice 3. That's going to help the likes of Red Bull Racing, who at some points have struggled during sprint weekends to try and find a really good balance for their car and for Max Verstappen. But now that there's that free practice 1, 2, and 3, I mean, that's going to lend an advantage to Red Bull Racing. And we're going to get more into this as we go through next week. So make sure you keep it locked into tsn.ca and also the TSN YouTube channel.